Welcome to the James Skrmetta Show on a Monday, an absolutely packed show, slam show. We've got a ton of topics here to talk about, all deep, rich topics. But first, you thought you suckers could scare me. You thought you guys could scare me with some YouTube comments? If you don't know what I'm talking about, the last podcast we did was focused around the United Airlines Chinaman, him getting dragged out of the plane. Caused a little bit of a stir. Sometimes out-of-the-box thinking, sometimes a different perspective, sometimes a different opinion can cause people to be a little upset. So if you watched or seen my simulcast version, we do a podcast version that's on iTunes, Audio Mac, and Stitcher, and we do a video version which is available on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. And the YouTube version, people can comment on, obviously. And there was quite a few comments that were, we'll say, were in disagreement. Now, a normal person, a normal thin-skinned person who's here just to please the masses would probably run and hide, throw his camera away, throw his microphone away, delete his account, delete the video. Oh, no, not me. No, not me. No, I'm coming. I'm still here. I'm coming harder and faster with more videos, more takes, more hot takes, and more of the stuff that you come here for every single time I do a video. The reason you show up here, the reason you press play, I'm still here. As a matter of fact, we will be addressing the comments in a special video this week released on my YouTube channel where I'm reading and reacting to comments on that specific video. Some will obviously be grotesque. Some will obviously be horrifying to the general public. Some will be compliments. And some will be actual intellectual thoughts about the situation that we'll break down. Now, I don't know when that video will launch. I would guess Wednesday, Thursday, somewhere in there. I'll probably film the video maybe tomorrow, edit it, whatever, push that thing out this week. So be on the lookout for that this week. And I want to go ahead and thank everyone who did comment on the video and who did take part in this conversation. That's all I ask. I'm putting this out there to start a conversation with you, the listener or the viewer or whoever. So please get involved. Go to my Twitter at JSKRMETTA. Go to the YouTube page. Drop a comment. And please go to iTunes. Hit that rate and review 5 stars with a nice little review. Here's a sample review. Wow, this guy's the greatest. Use that one. Here's another one. Wow, this guy's 10 times better than those chumps on my drive-by, my local drive time station. Yeah, use that one. Just a couple free ones. Thank you. Now, this show here, we're talking, obviously, we will talk about the Cleveland situation with the shooter, the Facebook shooter. It's a horrible situation. And we'll talk about that. Mostly, we will talk about, I'm sure you've all heard the details, so I don't need to break down any of the details. And we don't need to discuss really anything to do with the murders or the murderer, because I don't want to give this guy any kind of glory or any kind of pub. But we will talk about if graphic videos, deaths, suicides, bombings, whatever, should be shown on social media. Where do we come out on that? That's where we'll take that conversation. We're also talking a couple of NBA topics. I haven't mentioned this. Who is the NBA MVP? I have an answer. I don't think I've said it on this podcast. I think I may have mentioned it on Twitter. But I do have an answer, a clear-cut answer of who the NBA MVP should be. We're also staying in the NBA with Charles Barkley coming under a little bit of fire. He said that watching Isaiah Thomas, who lost his younger sister to a car accident earlier this week, or this last week, watching him cry on the sidelines made Charles Barkley uncomfortable. And of course, the keyboard warriors were out in full effect to tell Charles how awful it was that he said that, and we'll go ahead and talk about why it's not. And finally, April 15th obviously marks the anniversary of the Boston Marathon bombings. This will make it 4 years, or it made it 4 years on Saturday. So we'll talk briefly about what the bombing meant to me, where I was in the bomb, the whole thing. Because for whatever reason, it had a profound effect on me as far as viewing America and viewing, terrorist attacks and stuff like that. So we'll get into all of that. Let's start off with. I'll start off with Charles Barkley. I had to look at my sheet of paper, my sheet O topics. Start off with Charles. So Charles Barkley on Inside the NBA, my opinion, the best NBA pregame postgame show on TV. Ernie Johnson, Kenny Jet Smith, Shaq, used to be Chris Webber, and Charles on TNT. Fantastic show. Ernie Johnson is probably the best in the business. So with him at the helm, the show is obviously going to be great. They're talking pregame before the Celtics-Bulls game, and they're talking about how Isaiah is going to play. Not how as far as good or bad, but just how's he going to do it? How's he going to put aside his little sister's death, which had just happened a day before, and focus on a playoff game? And they were all giving their opinions on how they would have handled it, or athletes they knew that have dealt with something like this and what it does to your psyche. And before the game, probably 20, 30 minutes before the game, it was pretty close. There was a live shot of Isaiah on the sideline with a teammate, and he was crying. You could tell he was sitting down, he was upset, and he was crying. And it was hard to watch. You feel for another human. Especially when you see what that human is going for. It's hard enough. We all understand that it's hard enough for Isaiah to go through this. We all understand how gut-wrenching it is. And then to see him going through it just wrenches your heart even more. So let's go now to what Charles Barkley said on Inside the NBA. Here are his remarks.
I'm not even sure what to say. I'm not feeling comfortable with him sitting on the sideline crying like that. That makes me uncomfortable. So that tells me he's not in shape to play. I mean, I don't know how this night is going to turn out. But to be sitting on the sideline a few minutes before the game crying, that makes me uncomfortable for him. That's just not a good look, in my personal opinion. I mean, he is clearly devastated, like we all would be if we lost a sibling. But sitting on the sideline, like right before the game, that makes me uncomfortable.
So there you have it. There's the remarks. That's what Charles said. And people took that as Charles saying he was uncomfortable because Isaiah shouldn't have been crying, or he was uncomfortable because Isaiah shouldn't be showing his emotion. But I don't think that's what Charles was saying. I think it was clear that Charles was saying watching him cry, watching him go through this, made Charles uncomfortable, which is totally understandable. It made me uncomfortable. Watching someone go through that. You don't want to see that. Going to a funeral, being there, if you're not directly related or whatever, you're there. Say you're there for a friend and to support a friend. And the friend just lost a loved one, the friend's sitting there crying. Of course it's hard to watch someone that you love or someone that you care about or just someone that you respect. It's hard to watch them go through something. It's hard to watch them go through a terrible event and then to be upset and to cry and have their emotions spill out. Of course that's uncomfortable to watch. So I don't think Charles's comments were too off base. And I don't understand why people have decided to take up this part of the argument. The idea that Chuck was somehow insulting or somehow discounting or discrediting what Isaiah Thomas was going for. If anything, if you watch it, if you listen to it, you can hear that Chuck is hurting for Isaiah Thomas. And he's saying that, it's hard to watch. Could Chuck have said it better? Yeah. But Chuck could say everything better. But I know, and I think when you hear it and watch it, you understand what he means. If you read a headline that says, Charles Barkley says it makes him uncomfortable to watch Isaiah Thomas cry, I can see where you may misread something. But listening to it, watching it, I think Charles Barkley was coming from the same place that we're all at. We're incredibly torn for this guy. And this is the part where sports and real life collide and real life wins. And it's hard to say, go out there and play basketball. It's hard to put him in that basketball arena, in that world. Because at that point, we're all viewing him as a human being. And we're all viewing him as someone that we respect and someone that we like, or as hard as I care about, because we don't know the guy, but that we do like and respect. So it's hard to see him in that very, very vulnerable human space. And my heart goes out to Isaiah Thomas. I have a younger sister. I couldn't imagine losing her and then turning around and having to play, an enormous basketball game as a 1 seed. Basketball or anything just takes such a back seat to those real life situations. So I don't think Charles Barkley was saying anything malicious at all. At all. Next topic. We'll go ahead and stay in the NBA. Who is the NBA MVP? Who is? To me, it's between James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Twitter and some other people are kind of opening it up a little bit, saying Kawhi Leonard should be in the conversation, saying LeBron James should be in the conversation. And I don't know if those two... Now, listen. I'm the biggest LeBron James backer of all time. But I think that Kawhi and LeBron need to step back a little bit in this particular conversation. It's a two-man race. James Harden, Russell Westbrook. Both relatively similar players. Both high-flying, fast-paced, aggressive warriors. They're both playing basically the same position, running the same offenses to a little bit, and putting up the same numbers. Here are the numbers. Points per game. James Harden, 29.1. Russell Westbrook, 31.6. James Harden, rebounds per game, 8.1. Russell Westbrook, 10.7. Harden, assists per game, 11.2. Russell Westbrook, 10.4. Records, the Houston Rockets and James Harden are 55 and 27. Russell Westbrook and the Oklahoma City Thunder are 47 and 35. So who is the MVP? Let's first break down what it means to win the MVP award. You can look at it a few different ways. The MVP can be looked at as kind of a team award, right? Best team, best player on best team. Who has the most wins? Can you be the MVP if you're not in the playoffs? Can you be the MVP if you're on a losing team? That's one side of the argument. The next is, who is actually the best player that season? Who is the best person on the court? Who has put up the best numbers? Who has had the best single season? That's another way to look at it. And the third way is which player is most valuable to their team. If you take that player off of that team, who is the most valuable? Who means the most to their team? Now, for a long time, I was mostly on that third area. Who actually is the most valuable player in the league? Who is the best, right? Which guy, or I guess, a girl in women's sports, but we're talking about male sports. Which guy, if you take him off that team, does that team totally collapse? When Peyton Manning missed the season for the Indianapolis Colts, and the Colts went, 1-15, I heard people saying that there's an argument for Peyton Manning to win MVP because it proved without him, they're a one-win team. With him, they're an 11, 12-win team easily. And that made sense to me. I thought, well, that does make sense. That maybe he should be MVP. But at the same time, it's like, well, that kind of shows the fallacy in that part of the argument. So let's go to the other two. Who has the single season best performance? That's where I land. That's the MVP. That should be who the MVP is. The MVP should be an individual award. It is the most valuable player. Not the best player on the best team. Not the number one seed's best player. Not any of that. There's no pre-qualifiers. If you want to make it that, make it a different award. This is who is the best player in that season in the league. So if you look at it that way, the only person that makes sense is Russell Westbrook. Don't try and make this harder than it is. Russell Westbrook broke a 60-year-old record with the triple-doubles. He had 43 triple-doubles this season, breaking Oscar Robertson's record. Don't make it harder than it is. He's averaged a triple-double this season. He has more points per game than James Harden, more rebounds per game, and the assists, the only thing James Harden's winning, is 11.2 to 10.4. You're talking about less than an assist per game is the difference. So it's not like James Harden is having 15 more assists. He's having less than one a game for a whole season. And Russell Westbrook averaging a triple-double. 43 triple-doubles. More than half of the time, more than half of the games, he's coming out of there with a triple-double. That is insane. Insane. You can make an argument that Russell Westbrook is also the most valuable player on the team because if you take him off of the team, the Thunder are trash. And yeah, James Harden has more wins, but he's got the better team. He's the 3 seed in the West. Westbrook is the 6 seed. And if you're going by that, if you're going by the most valuable player, then LeBron James should have 13 of them. He should win every single year. The first week of the season, they should be like, all right, well, here comes the NBA season. Oh, by the way, LeBron James is your MVP because whatever team he's on is going to the finals. And if you take him off of Cleveland, they're trash. If you take him off of Miami, they're trash. Doesn't matter where, LeBron James is MVP. But that's not the award. It's that single season. It is to set or to honor one season of greatness. Not a career of greatness, not multiple seasons, not 10 games, not the playoffs. One regular season chunk. That's what the award is for. So I think that if you look at it like that, then there's no debate. It's not a conversation. Russell Westbrook has to be your MVP. Better stats, made the playoffs, does not have the supporting cast that James Harden has, does not have the team that James Harden has, dragged that team to the playoffs, averaged a triple-double. Say it to yourself. Averaged, over the course of a season, a triple-double. It is so hard to get a triple-double in a game. And he did it 43 times. With every single game, the other team, their goal is to stop Russell Westbrook. The whole pregame, their coaches were telling them, look, just stop Russell Westbrook and we'll be fine. He's getting double-teamed. He's getting their best defensive player every single night. The other teams know that this guy's going to come out there and try and get a triple-double. And he's doing it almost every other night. Or he is doing it more than every other night. He's doing it 43 out of 82 times. That is nuts. I don't have a vote, but if I did, Russell Westbrook would, without a doubt, be my vote for the 2016-2017 NBA MVP. And I think James Harden had an incredible year. And honestly, I think James Harden might be a little bit better than Russell Westbrook. Especially as far as like if you're building a team, looking for a team player, looking for someone who's going to progress your team to the playoffs or the finals, I think I would go with James Harden. But as far as a single season of greatness, I cannot deny Russell Westbrook in this situation. He is your MVP. So let's get to this Cleveland murder situation. Let's shift. We went from sports. Now we're shifting to the more grim subjects here. I like to keep the show loose. I like to keep the show light. I like to keep the show flowing kind of in a positive direction. But unfortunately, sometimes events happen where there is no positive spin. This was an awful story. A terrible, terrible story. The most basic background. And we're not going to say the guy's name. We're not going to say the shooter's name. Because we don't want to give him what he wants. So we won't say his name. But we will say the name of the victim. Let me pull it up so I get it correct. 74-year-old Robert Godwin. 74-year-old Robert Godwin from Cleveland. 74-year-old Robert Godwin was leaving Easter lunch with his family, walking down the street, and this guy, who has made a video about the whole thing, put it up on Facebook, said that he was going to go murder some people because he was mad at his ex-girlfriend had made him crazy. And the video you see go up to this man and shoots him dead. I haven't watched the full video. I've watched up until up until the gun gets brought into play. And all I can think about is how this man, 74-year story, how this man's life, 9 children, 14 grandchildren, was snuffed out randomly by this obviously deranged murderer. And on Easter, no less, after leaving a family luncheon, happens to be walking down the street while this guy's driving down it. My heart absolutely breaks for his family. To not only lose a grandfather, a father in this situation, but to have to watch something so unnecessary and the last image be that video. Of course, I put myself in the place of if it was my grandfather, who's around the same age, if he was walking down the street, which he normally does, if he was walking down the street and he was in this video and how I would react, and all I can do is be upset and send my prayers and thoughts to the family. And good God, I hope they catch this man quickly. And I hope that he gets the justice instilled into him that he deserves. So hopefully they catch him. Now, what I want to talk about is the social media aspect of it. This is something that is really rampant now in our society. How social media is so quick. And it's so, everyone's using it. So there's so many people putting so much stuff out there. It's impossible, really, I think, to just say, nope, can't have any stuff on there, no graphic stuff. Who's going to regulate that? You're talking about hundreds of millions of users uploading hundreds of millions of pictures and videos and links all around the web, and you want to somehow stop all this? I don't think it's possible. You see it with like celebrity nudes, right? Celebrity leaks. When these big, huge leaks happen, they're sex tapes or they're phone images. Once they're out there, they're on Reddit, they're on Twitter, they're all over the place really quick. And it's easier to find that stuff on Twitter and on Facebook than Google, because Twitter and Facebook and social media is just a lawless jungle. People are posting and just these anonymous egg accounts. Dr. Bambastic, 1996, just some random name, has no repercussions to it at all. I can go make an account right now with a picture of some random dog and name it something like Dr. Bambastic 96, have no bio, no information, have no one linked to me whatsoever. No one has any idea it's me. And I can post whatever I want. And that's where this issue comes in. Now, the question is difficult because the question is kind of two-part. Should we be viewing this stuff? And I think no. I don't think we should see this kind of stuff. I don't think we should see murders and suicides and bombings and all. I don't think we should see that. I think it desensitizes the nation. It desensitizes people that watch it. It makes it more regular. It makes people want to do it more. Not everyone is right. Not everyone is okay upstairs. So when you have a bunch of these videos, you're going to have a bunch of copycat of these videos. You're going to have a bunch of copycat situations. We'll talk about the Boston bombing later. But they put him on the cover of Rolling Stones, for God's sakes. Rolling Stone put this guy on the cover. You know how many people want to be on the cover of Rolling Stone? You know how many people have nothing going for them, are incredibly depressed, have some serious mental issues, and they see somebody who goes and bombs a marathon get put on the cover of Rolling Stone and become basically, infamous forever? You don't think that's going to make some people, that's going to fuel some people to do that? This guy who did this won't be the last that streams a crime. You're seeing it more and more. People getting in trouble for streaming hazing, for streaming, sexual assaults, for streaming rapes. You see it more and more now. And with the way that digital media is moving to a live Facebook Live, Twitter, you can go live. There's websites dedicated to going live. You can go live on YouTube. You can go live on Twitch. There are plenty of websites, plenty of outlets. That is the new. That is the way media is moving. And unfortunately, I don't know if there's a way for us to stop it. And I think that's dangerous. I really do. I think it's dangerous. Because as much as people try, it is not easy to turn from a video like that, from a graphic video. For whatever reason, big accidents, bombings, explosions, gruesome stuff like that draws a crowd. Whether it's newspaper, TV, whatever. Always has, always will. So what I'm afraid of is that this just amplifies and just makes it way faster. The desensitizing of America, of our youth, who are seeing these things on the internet on a daily basis. I remember when I was in high school, there was a website called Rotten.com. This is way before social media. You know, we're talking probably 3-4 years before Facebook. So, and you went on this website, and they would show you horrible photos of injuries. You know, someone that fractured his leg, the bone sticking out, or someone who, crime photos, stuff like that. And I remember that was a huge thing. People would go on there, and oh my God, I bet you can't watch this. I bet you can't look at this picture of whatever. I bet you can't see this. And that was a weird moment. Because that was the first time, this is early internet usage, right? This is the first time that a lot of us saw that kind of stuff. This is the first time that a lot of us saw blood and bones and this kind of gore. And then movies and TV shows progressively became more and more bloody and gore and pushing the boundaries. It's just a natural progression. And I think that it's hard for me to sit back and say that doesn't have a negative effect on our society. I think it has to. I think to see that kind of stuff, to see this video of this murder, to watch a suicide, to watch a beheading, to watch all that over and over again, I think at some point you do become desensitized. And I read an article about a week ago about the mass shootings and how mass shootings at one point was the biggest thing in the world. You would hear about it. Oh my God, I can't believe it happened. And bam, you're all over the TV. You're all over it. And now it happens so much and it's covered so much that people have kind of lost interest. As sad as that, callous as that sounds, that they've lost interest in these mild mass shootings. Unless it's a huge one, it won't grab them like it used to. When you see 100 car accidents, they're going to have to get bigger and worse for you to care. You've already seen 100 of them. It's just anything in life. You eat 100 hamburgers, you're going to have a really good hamburger to knock your socks off. That's as basic as it gets. I'm no psychologist, but I think that makes sense. The more you do something, the more you experience something, the more that next experience has to be really something for it to trump all the other ones. So I worry that these graphic videos and these graphic pictures that are so easily accessible on social media is just going to make our minds or our feelings towards those kind of things lessened. And the last thing that we need, especially in times like right now, is a lessened view on violence, murder, suicide, bombings, whatever. I don't know what these social media sites can do about this, but I am very much in favor of them doing it. Whatever they have to do to regulate, to censor what can be shown, how many times it can be viewed, what can be posted. So hopefully the guys at Facebook, the guys at Twitter, the guys wherever can do their best to censor what, in my opinion, may be an uncensorable place. The last thing we'll talk about really quick, and let me know where you come out on this topic. Let me know in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening, go to Twitter and hit me up. Let me know exactly where you come out. Because a lot of this stuff, I can see both sides of it. I can see the people saying, you can't censor it. You have to see it. I can see all that. I understand. I would love to hear your feedback. Twitter, of course, is at JSKRMETTA. You can go also to YouTube, drop a comment down there. And Twitter, I'll respond almost immediately. YouTube, like I said, I will respond. It might just take a while, depending on how many comments these videos and stuff get. But the Boston Marathon bombing happened April 15th, 2013. So Saturday was 4 years, like we said earlier. When the bombings happened, I obviously was not in Boston. I was actually in college, and I was working at the local college radio station, and I was a news reporter. And I went on every day at noon, and I said the news. I did like 5 minutes, said the news stories, leading into our DJ, who would then play for an hour on the live show. And I remember this happened, and so I had to go research the story, write up the thing, and read it every day, updating the story. The night of the manhunt, I was sitting in my parents' house. I was home from college for the weekend. I was laying in bed, and it happened. The whole thing happened. The manhunt happened, and I was just enthralled with it. I couldn't stop. I wanted them to catch this guy so bad. It wasn't a normal attack. When 9/11 happened, I was in 7th grade. And I remember that was very different because I was confused. I didn't understand the scope. I didn't understand what any of it meant. I didn't understand. And this is before social media. So I didn't see images on my Twitter, right? I didn't get constant information. All I knew about 9/11 was planes were flown into the World Trade Center, people were dead, fire and gas explosions. And you see in the corner, you see like news clips, but that's it. You're not getting constant info. The manhunt, I was getting constant information. I was just scrolling on my Twitter feed and just like the suspects are in this house, the suspects are in this neighborhood's being locked down. This is who it's supposed to be. This is what their motive is. This is their background. And so I was just so enthralled with it. And I was older. And I was more invested in my country, more invested in my government, more invested in America. When you're young, you're just living. When you get to the point where you can vote, when you get to the point where you're paying attention to politics, when you're paying attention to foreign affairs, when you're paying attention to what's happening around the world, how the world views America, how you view America. It's a lot like your own faith. It's a lot like religion, where you get baptized, you do communion, you do all the sacraments, but you just do them to do them. You don't do them because you're actually thinking. Like confirmation is a good example. You go through confirmation, but you're, in 9th grade, 10th grade, something like that? So you don't know. You're just doing it. And a lot of people will do confirmation, and then they'll drop out of the church, right? They'll quit going to church. They won't care anymore. I see a ton of people do it. I'm not saying anything's wrong with that. It's not until you really question what's going on. It's not until you really think about what you're doing that you invest in it. Someone now at my age goes to church or does something because they want to do it, because they've invested in it, because they researched it, because they believe it. So they do it. Same with America. Same with your patriotism. You have it or don't have it because of now your own personal thoughts, what you believe, what you've researched, what you understand. The people that don't vote at past 25 years old, something like that, it's because they just don't care. They don't pay attention to the news. They don't pay attention to foreign affairs. They don't pay attention to what bills are being passed, what issues are on the table, any of that stuff. The people that do vote, usually, are the people that do care and the people who have educated themselves. So the Boston Marathon bombing, for me, was the first real thing that happened to where I felt attacked. As an American, I felt my country was being attacked from the inside out, and I was pissed. And I felt American. That was the first time where I really became red, white, super pro, red, white, and blue. America's got to do it. I remember that was the feeling that overtook me. Was this son of a bitch has come out here, bombed these marathon runners, and we got to get them. And I'm not going to sleep until we get them. That was my thought. And ever since then, I've seen the world very differently. I realize how vulnerable we can be and how other people don't like America and other ideals. I became very aware of differing ideals of, how we have democracy, ideas of voting, ideas of freedom, all those things. And that jump-started really me paying attention to politics, me paying attention to national news, me paying attention to international news, and paying attention to what is happening around the world. And so I just wanted to bring that up because it is, I do think about it every anniversary, because there's some seminal moments, in your life where they just coincide with your age or coincide with what you're doing, whether it's graduating college or getting married, or life is changing. Something happens in the middle of that change that kind of kickstarts it or slows it down or makes another change. And that was a moment for me where the Boston bombing, for me, was probably like 9/11 for a lot of people. If I would have been 18, 19, 20, 21 years old when 9/11 happened, then maybe 9/11 would be that moment for me. But the Boston Marathon bombing, even though it was so far away from me, didn't affect me the scale of 9/11. 9/11 affected the entire nation. Sent us into a huge war. The Boston Marathon bombing was much smaller on that scale, but it affected me personally more because I think I was older and I understood, which makes sense. If you're younger, things don't affect you like they do when you're older. So that was my Boston Marathon bombing memory. And we're not saying the names of those people either, because we're not giving them what Rolling Stone already gave them, which is a cover shoot. Rolling Stone, if you want to give someone a cover that deserves it, call me, and I'll turn you down. But give me a call. Give me a call and put this face on your next cover. Sell 1 million copies. Thank you guys for listening or viewing, whatever. Be on the lookout for that comment or reaction video. If you're new to the podcast, new to the videos, please go ahead and watch other ones, listen to other ones, hit subscribe to the podcast, to the videos. They're coming out multiple times a week. We're doing other stuff on here. We're pumping out content left and right. The amount of content that we're pumping out, at the pace we're pumping out, at the quality we're pumping out, no one else in the world can do what we're doing. Thanks, guys. Enjoy your week. This is a great start to it. This is a Monday podcast. The week can't be bad now. This is how you start it. Thanks, guys. If you don't know, this has been the James Skrmetta Show.